I think number one is you always have to have a moment in the day where you block out all the noise that's coming your way. No email, phone call. Just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to take a quick breather and re-strategize for what's happening ahead. You need to embrace the chaos, at times, but also you also have to embrace the moments that you have of solitude.
Tell us a little bit about your journey from a designer to a design build project manager.
It turns out that multitasking is not a euphemism for a circus act. So I realized that I could go from designing beautiful products as an industrial designer, which was my background, to managing construction crews. So I think a lot of my friends thought it was more like a midlife crisis, and I told them, no, it's actually more construction alignment.
What's the most challenging aspect of managing construction crews, if you will, while still overseeing the cabinetry design?
The challenging aspect is sometimes to get our crew to also appreciate the cabinetry design, because you design it one way, but it may not actually be installed that way. People don't actually appreciate fine woodworking the way that we do in the design side when it translates to the construction installation. So I think part of it is getting everybody on the same page, getting everyone to understand what the full vision is, and I think just also at the same time having fun with it.
How do you balance creativity with the practical aspects of construction management?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's a delicate dance between creativity and practicality. I think oftentimes it's like trying to paint a mural with a sledgehammer. Hard, but not impossible, if you know what I mean. But I've learned that in in applying the creative design, it's very much like the icing on the cake.
What is the funniest or most unexpected situation that you've encountered while managing a construction team?
Well, there's one time a construction worker grabbed a cup of coffee, think it was a cup of coffee, but it was wood stain. So to say, we had a lot of laughs to say. The second one was actually, it was a very hot day, and we had somebody actually grab a miter saw and try to make it turn into a fan. So
Did they?
well, they tried, but it was not going to work.
Well, I'm imagining that they just put some maybe like plastic on top of the drill, turn it on.
Yeah.
So then it would try to,
Yeah,
be a fan.
it was
It didn't work?
makeshift. No, it didn't work.
And then what happened to the person who drank the wood stain?
Well, he had a very interesting morning, to say the least. It didn't wake him up, though. That's for sure.
In the ER, right?
Well, actually, he got checked out, but he was fine afterwards.
Okay, so could you take us on a humorous journey, if you will, through a day in your life managing both design and construction crews?
Well, think about it this way. My day is like Salvador Dali designing a roller coaster. So I jump out of bed in the morning. I take my hard hat, figuratively, right?
Yep.
But then I come to the office. I start reviewing my emails. I start talking to people in regards to what tasks we're trying to accomplish in the schedule. We start dealing with whatever permits are pending with the city. I had somebody tell me one time that they actually wanted us to have a window fall protection for a picture window, which is fixed, meaning it can't open, for a picture window that's on a deck, which it almost made no sense. And I'm talking to a couple of friends. This happens quite often. Even though it was very obviously a fixed window, they wanted certain language to be included in there. So sometimes for me, in my day-to-day, I have to deal with situations like this, and no day is the same as the day before.
So tell us what you did today.
I got to the office, I cried a little bit, I opened and then I opened my emails because I knew that I knew that it was going to be terrible. So we actually had to deal with a couple of situations with a project that we're trying to close up. The family already moved back to their home. They were actually gone for several weeks, and now they're actually back at home. So now they want everything to be in place. Now we have to ask our crew to essentially be more hands-on with the cleaning aspect because at the end of the day, this family is already living in their space. And so dealing with that, I mean, there's a lot of customer service that goes with this job, understanding that people are going to have very odd requests, and can't disclose all of them, but sometimes you know that this is not what you signed up for.
All right, well, I gotta ask. All right, tell us, please, first off, what were you crying about today? And then secondly, what are some odd requests?
Well, what I was crying about today was more like knowing that we're not going to make our deadlines. Um, Unfortunately, suppliers don't have what we need. Oftentimes, we place an order even, with a 6 month lead time, and the 6 months come and you still don't have what you need. So that delayed us. That delayed us quite a bit. That's what I cried about. Obviously, you don't not really, but really crying about not being able to get the work done.
Can you tell us what are some of those odd things that clients
Requests?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. They will request for things that they think they need. And I don't want to say an example, and then they watch this and they say, "Wait, are we really?" But sometimes they request things that they think they need, and oftentimes you have to tell them, "Hey, you want to talk them out of making a mistake with their home."
All right, so what does a client think that they might need that you try to talk them out of?
People blow through their allowances. We tell them that there is a cost for a faucet, there is a cost for a refrigerator, there's a cost for a microwave that we feel is a standard, and there is a cost that it may be more on the luxury side, and then some people go way above that. So instead of spending $10,000, they could spend $20,000 on a refrigerator. And $10,000 seems like a lot already, right? Imagine if somebody does that. You try to make sure that they don't do that, because that part of the budget is going to come into play later on when we're sending in change orders. They have changed the scope of work, and now all of a sudden they don't have that money to spend on the rest of the project.
How do you handle unexpected surprises or even challenges in your design project builds?
Well, we have to create a risk management report. So the job of a project manager, specifically my job, is to foresee for challenges or things that may actually go wrong. I come up with a plan for things that never happen. So oftentimes for me, is now predicting that something that should come in 12 weeks actually arrives in 20 or later. We have to have a backup plan. If that didn't work out, I need to come up with an alternative for that. And finding the alternatives ahead of time is probably the most challenging thing for me, now that I've seen many times that nothing is going to go your way.
How much time, if maybe days or weeks, do you allocate towards figuring out what the worst thing that can go wrong is?
Well, it's very early on in the project. It happens towards it's at the beginning that you try to figure out what that is. But in your day-to-day, you're gonna constantly be checking with your suppliers and with your crew where we're at. So once you assess this on the day-to-day basis, towards the end of the day, I'm already coming up with tomorrow's game plan, because it already changed. And the game plan that I had last week for this week changes completely as I hear the end of the day report that we have from every stakeholder.
Do you have any design or construction mishaps that turn into your favorite accident or favorite failure? If so, which ones and why?
We had one time the wrong material delivered for the backsplash, but it turns out that the client actually loved it. So we were able to make it work. They ended up with something that was very different than they initially intended. We had another mishap. We sent someone to pick up a sample for flooring for a client, and it turns out they picked up the wrong sample because the sales rep didn't give them the right sample. And it turns out that this sample that they gave them, they loved it, and it was completely the opposite of what they had requested initially.
Can you take us back to one time, one of the biggest learning lessons that you remember?
I actually made a mistake on a design that I was making, kitchen cabinet design. I made a mistake. I took the wrong dimensions, and once we were ready to install, I realized that I had made a very critical mistake. Because of that, we ended up getting rid of one of the cabinets that we actually had intended to initially install. We had to modify it. And as it was modified, it turns out it was actually much better because it turned out to be a more symmetrical way to install this custom piece. And it was much better. And many people actually thought it was what I initially intended. And of course, I told them that that's exactly what the plan was.
Of course.
But it wasn't, And I made a very critical mistake. This was very early on in my career, so it played in our favor.
And now, whenever you take measurements, if you take measurements, still,
yeah, I do.
I'm sure you do it twice.
Yeah, more than that actually. I not only I scan the room with a lighter scanner. I also take.
What app do you use?
Polycam. I use Polycam.
Polycam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you showed it to me.
Yes.
It's a very cool app, and it's free, right?
There's certain parts of the app that are free, but if you want to get most of the capabilities, you have to pay for it. And it's not expensive. I think it's only like $15 or $17 or so. And that's the pro version of it.
Yeah.
And you actually get a lot of play out of it because it actually will design, rooms in real time. It's basically like you send a surveyor to give you this work.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like a great app. It's like $15 is nothing.
No, yeah, and then it totally pays itself. It cuts your work in half.
What's the one thing you'd put on a billboard to let these design build project managers know?
I think number one is you always have to have a moment in the day where you block out all the noise that's coming your way. No email, phone call. Just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to take a quick breather and re-strategize for what's happening ahead. You need to embrace the chaos, at times, but also you also have to embrace the moments that you have of solitude. And sometimes embracing those moments before the storm comes again is what keeps you sane and keeps you effective as a project manager.
Why did you choose to be a design build project manager when you could have chosen to become anything else in the world?
I remember meeting a really awesome project manager, comes into the meeting like a rock star and starts calling out what everybody is supposed to be doing and where they're at. I felt that that was a great role model to look at and say, hey, you know what? I want to kind of do this. I think I want to be the person that helps this team get ahead. And I felt that it really resonated with me, the importance of this person's role with me. So I could have chosen to do anything else. I was already doing the design aspect, but I wanted to be more than just a design collaborator or a person that was just, helping with the blueprints. I wanted to do more of the administrative side. I wanted to help the projects get ahead. And I realized that I had certain limitations in my role that I felt that project manager basically talked to everybody and was more connected to every team and every stakeholder. So I felt that, this is what I want to do. I want to be a more effective collaborator than just my limitations as a designer.
So you bring people together, you tell them what to do, you get paid, you call the shots.
If you do a quick search online, you'll see that design build project manager has a wide range of salaries. Some they're all in the six figures, but then some are actually very attractive salaries. The better you get at this career, the more money you make. Obviously, that is a fascinating aspect of every career. You're getting well compensated for it, but that wasn't the main objective for my career choice. I felt that there was a glass ceiling that I couldn't break as a designer, but I felt that as a project manager, I could easily not only break that ceiling, but move on to the next step of my career.
Nice. And that's exactly what you're doing, right? I mean, aren't you getting a certification right now?
Oh yeah, no, I went back to school. I started taking project management classes to be more effective. Take the exam as a PMP exam. I got accepted to take it. So it's really it's really a career that doesn't you don't stop learning at all. As a matter of fact, to stay certified as a PMP, you need professional development units known as PDUs. So you have to constantly be taking classes to get those units. You also have to mentor. I think as a project manager, our careers only account for 8 PDU units in a year, and we need about 20 per year. We need 60 in 3 years to stay accredited, or you got to take the exam again.
60 units within 3 years.
That's right. Either you take classes, you mentor a new project manager, that you get units for that. You can actually enter a mentorship program through a PMI in San Francisco. So you actually can teach other project managers how to be effective. And project managers come in many forms. They're in finance, they are in technology, they're in construction. But let's face it, the original project managers came from construction.
I mean, where else would they have come from?
I mean,
Carpentry?
I mean, honestly, people thought that they were originally from technology.
No, when you think about the oldest jobs known to man, I would say carpentry is one of them. I would think that project managers came from there, but that's still technically a form of construction.
In the design build industry, you're as a project manager, your best friend is a superintendent, and you talk to them every single day, and they report back to you what they're at. And then we got to communicate to the clients where we're at. So the client doesn't talk directly to the superintendent. Project manager needs to become that buffer between the two. And we need to be the ones that communicate good news and bad news.
What's some bad news that you are tasked with giving clients or your coworkers?
It's not going to be running time, or we just can't do it the way you want us to do it. It's just not going to work with the space. Sometimes we got to talk people out of certain bad choices, that they do. Oftentimes, small space, they want to put a subway tile all throughout a 4x4 space. And sometimes you gotta say in a nice way, "Oh, it's a great idea, sir. However, I feel like you're probably better just only doing 2 walls instead of the whole 4." Those are bad news that people don't want to hear. People want you to exactly deliver what they want. And yeah, you could do that technically, but you're not doing them a service. People are going to come to their home, and you're never going to get that referral because those other people that came there, whether it's a commercial job or this residential job, you're not going to get a referral from a job that people don't think it was well done.
If you had to summarize your design build philosophy in one sentence, what would it be?
Design with a side of construction comedy, because why build when you can build with a smile?
I'd like to play a game. I would like to play a game.
Yes.
All right, here's the game that I would like to play with you. So the game is, see that little timer right there? The
Yep.
hourglass? You have 1 minute to answer 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
In your life, not just in your career, what has been your favorite failure of all and why?
My favorite failure.
Exactly. And you have 1 minute starting now.
I was working with a company that was a furniture designer, and I feel that when the company closed down, I feel like I took that as a failure for me, because the products that we were putting out that I was designing were not being bought by people, right? So I feel that once that happened, it actually gave me a new focus to actually do something else and step out of this comfort zone that I had for a while. So I decided that I want to reinvent myself as a professional.
If you had one mentor, and it could be anyone, past, present, or future, who would your mentor be and why?
I wish that my father was still around today so he could mentor me through the new aspect of my job, which involves construction. He was a superintendent in construction for many years. And there is questions that I never asked him that I wish that I could ask him today.
My condolences. That's a beautiful answer. Okay, and then what are your top, let's go with top 2 books that you recommend your friends, family, or strangers on the street, and why?
Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I believe it taught me a lot.
So why that book?
It was something that I didn't have. I didn't have emotional intelligence before, and it just opened my eyes to a very to a very particular set of skill that I use now in my career, in my life.
Okay, what advice would you give to your future child if you could only tell him one thing?
I think that you need to be passionate about what you do and give it your all. That's my number one advice. That's the advice that I received from my father. So I think it's only fair that I do the same thing.
If you were to brand yourself with just one word, what would that word be?
Creative.
Okay, creative, why?
I come up with ideas every single minute of my life, and I feel like that is always present. I feel that I never lacked creativity for either design or how to figure out how to get out of a problem. So,
Man, now the problem is figuring out how to manage all your ideas.
yeah, the better you get at this, the more you realize that you really need other people to help you. You can manage only so much, but once you want to move to the next level, you need to surround yourself with the right people.
I agree. And so if people want to find out more about you or get in contact with you, how can they do so?
Follow me on Instagram at Percy Ramos 415, or you can go to my website, bocetodesigns.com.
Okay, perfect. Percy, it's been a great privilege and honor, and I'm sure we'll have you back on. Thank you again for making the time, coming over here. I know you have a very busy day. Thank you.
Thank
And with
you.
that, adieu.